Welcome to CoramBAAF Conversations, a podcast series dedicated to adoption, fostering and kinship care. We ask children's social care professionals and experts by experience to join us to share with us and you, our listeners, their experiences, reflections and knowledge. I hope you enjoy.
Hello, I'm Helen Little, Training Consultancy and Events Manager at CoramBAAF. Welcome to this podcast stroke small training session, which is part of our Members Week 2024. This year, the theme is, and you'll know if you've been following some of the events, is listening to the child. And each day we've focused on different aspects of a child or young person's experiences and challenges in adoption, foster care and kinship care. There have been live events, there have been blogs, there have been journal articles and pre-recorded sessions a bit like these. And of course, you can access all of those by logging on onto the members site. As long as you've got a membership account, do that first. Today's theme is about how we do direct work with children and young people, and to enable us to really listen and to get the best from that work. And specifically, Marianne, who I'm going to introduce in a minute, has done lots of work with life story work, but that's just part of it. So we're going to tap into Marianne's experience and look at some quite practical things that will help us in terms of direct work with children. So, Marianne, would you like to just introduce yourself formally and just give us a bit of an overview of what you do?
So I'm Marrianne Palin. I'm an associate trainer for CoramBAAF. I also am a practitioner working in adoption and fostering. I've been a practitioner social worker for 22 years, and I've worked with children and many families over the years, and I've done a lot of life story work, and I do the training for CoramBAAF as one of the associate trainers.
Thank you, Marianne. Brilliant. So let's head off into this. And my first question to you is, what would you say is your approach when planning or whatever direct work with children?
I think the first thing is, the key is planning. You absolutely need to prepare. You need to prepare yourself. You need to understand for the child or young person what it is that they require from the sessions. So you may have an idea, for example, with life story work, that you know that you need to prepare a child for moving on to another family. That's great. You have that understanding of that, but understanding then what work's been done already with that child, what work has been done previously. So being aware of what's gone before, speaking with the foster carer, the child or young person, thinking about their communication styles, what they're going to need to know, questions they've asked already. Sometimes children and young people think they know information, and perhaps the information that they've been provided isn't completely accurate. So again, it's knowing what that's about, so you don't go in and perhaps feel on a back foot right from the start, that you're thinking, oh gosh, I'm prepared this, and that's not going to work. So being prepared, understanding what the child's needs are is really key. Next thing is regulation. You have to start with regulating yourself. When we start these sessions, we might be going from a really busy day. In fact, we're likely, aren't we, to be going from a busy day where we've been running around, and we need to be regulated ourselves. In fact, Dan Hughes talks about regulation piggyback, that if we want to regulate little people and maybe teenage people, that we need to think about how we regulate ourselves, because that's the starting point for a young person to piggyback off us. Time of day, I've just mentioned, we've been running around. It may well be that the best time of day, the only time of day, not so much the best time of day, but the only time of day that we can see young people is after school. And it could be a really tiring time for them. So thinking how we're going to manage that, talking again to whoever it is that's caring for that young person, whether it's their auntie, their grandparent, their adoptive parent, or their foster carer. What is it that we can do that we can make that easier? Is it that we leave another half an hour so they can have a bit of decompression time before we turn up? Is it that we're thinking about how we can make it so it's a more comfortable experience? The room that we're using could be a bit cozy. And my top tip is absolutely have a nice snack. It's always a good thing. Very regulating for everybody involved. So, you know, something crunchy or sweet can be really beneficial at being regulating. And again, whoever it is that's caring for the child, hopefully they might supply it for you. But thinking through what is the child or young person's favourite thing so that you can have that to hand can be a good starter.
We talked about preparing the carers, Marianne. What sort of stuff do you do for them? How do you prepare them?
Yeah, well, starting with introducing, you know, how they're going to talk about the sessions, thinking through, being aware that you're going to want to, obviously, with the child or young person's consent, you're going to want to involve them in the sessions. It may well be that they could be involved actually in the session, but if they're not involved in that for whatever reason, that they know what's going on, so they're going to be able to support that child or young person after. You're not going to be leaving things where, you know, it feels like the carers don't know what's gone on and the young person's extremely distressed or cross, you know, and that's been left for everybody up in the air. So you're going to want to support that child or young person, and by doing that you're going to need to communicate well with whoever it is that's caring for them. Obviously consent's part of that. You know, we need to make sure that the young person feels in control and is aware, you know, of what's being shared and is happy with that. But that's all part of, you know, those discussions early on, really.
And so in terms of actually supporting the child to feel safe and regulated, obviously that introduction, you know, the sort of the decompression time or the right time you're just saying, and the sort of the snack or whatever, but is there anything else around that supporting the child to help them to feel safe that you'd like to pass on?
Yeah, regulation. So we've talked about us being regulated when we go in, so that, you know, we take a few deep breaths and we park whatever it is that's going on in our own lives at the door, and really devote ourselves to feeling in the moment with that child or young person. We need to recognise for that child or young person, some of these sessions may be quite challenging, and we need to understand, number one, from their carers, what it is that, you know, could be regulating things that they could be offered as opportunities if it starts to get too much. You know, we've talked about the snack, that's all very well and good, but we can't keep offering snacks right, left and centre.
High as a kite bouncing off the wall.
Absolutely, that's not what I'm thinking, but, you know, it may well be that giving the child or young person absolutely the right to say, do you know, this is too much at the moment, and putting that on the table for them. Understanding that, you know, it may well be that you can see and you can pick up for yourself, and you move on to a different activity rather than, you know, continuing with something that is too hard at that time. Knowing that, you know, I talk to children and young people about how it feels in your body. If you're feeling, you know, you might be feeling wobbly, is a word that I use quite a lot, particularly with younger children. When you're feeling distressed or upset, or you might be feeling anxious, you know, and where in the body you can kind of body scan and body map that. And that's another activity in itself. You could use drawings of the body, gingerbread kind of people can be really useful, and they can draw where they feel uncomfortable when they're feeling emotions. So that can be really helpful as a way of being able to draw in to talk about emotions and how you're feeling, and to set limits on that. When it comes to regulating, it may be that you just need to find something else to be doing. You know, having a start and an end that is kind of predictable can be really helpful, regardless of what age the child or young person is. We all like a bit of predictability. It makes us feel safer, thereby it makes us feel regulated. When I talk about regulation, I'm talking about feeling okay, calm in your body. And so it's really important that we kind of understand and help children understand that it's okay if they're feeling a bit wobbly, that we can, you know, look and tailor make and do a different activity. I think if you can be a bit tongue in cheek, you can actually get away with an awful lot more on activities. I'm just talking about teenagers a moment, you know, having things in your kit, like having a bit of Play-Doh. The amount of teenagers that I've found that actually really enjoy Play-Doh, if it's tongue-in-cheek, if you do it tongue-in-cheek, you know, if you go in and you say, we're doing this activity today, but if you go, I've brought a bit of Play-Doh, do you fancy having a go? You know, I actually really enjoy, and again, that can be regulating. Play-Doh can be a regulating thing.
It's very tactile, isn't it? It's sort of like, absolutely. This is where you can be your top tips, Marianne, for a child and young person who need to regulate, or you want to more energy. What sort of ideas have you got for that?
Fancy words are hyper-arousal and hypo-arousal.
There you go.
We want our young people, our child, to be in that window of tolerance. That might be a challenge. Not everybody stays in the window of tolerance anyway. But the hypo-arousal. So if you've got a child or young person who is really seeming quite flat, is not wishing to engage with you, finding that fun, energizing activity can be really helpful at the start of the session. And you know, that can be, it could be something as silly as although it's not silly really, having a dance. It could be, you know, playing a game of something that, you know, is more energizing. There's plenty of games out there that you could play. I'm just trying to think. I want to do the fork thing now, but I'll wait. I'll save it. But there are games you can play, copying games, and make it faster, and you know, and that kind of gets the excitement levels going. You know, something that's a bit more of rapid pace or is a little bit more complicated for a slightly older child or a teenager can be something that can be more energizing. If you've got a child or young person who is hyper aroused, so that they're kind of very excitable, maybe not wanting to sit down, talking over and not wanting to kind of listen and those kind of things, then doing things that again are a little more complicated, perhaps maybe take a little bit more focus, might work for some children and young people, where you've got to put that focus there. It might be that you're going to need to do something which is a bit slower, and you might be using your voice, and I use my voice quite a lot with children and young people, to talk a bit slower. And you can feel already I was talking quite fast then, but if you start to talk a bit slower and we do an activity, it could be I'm going to do a hand one now, hand stack. So here's my hand, you'd have your hands over the top, and if you do it slowly, then that can really help calm and bring down the energy level in the room. And you can do it so it goes high, and you can do it so it goes low, and that takes a bit more focus and skill again. If you do it fast, that's your kind of building up that energy, which is great if you've got a child who's hypo aroused, less kind of inclined to kind of get involved. So those are kind of things you can do. Speaking quieter, it's a top tip from teachers. I also used to be a teacher, so lecturer. So using your voice can really help. So making it slower or faster and a bit louder, not shouting, but you know, that kind of excitable air can bring about an energy in the room. If you want to calm things down, actually speaking quietly, people have to listen a bit more. If they want to listen, it's not always going to work. It's not magical, but you know, it can really help. Obviously, it's really, really important that the child or young person enjoys the activity. Let's go back to the carer again. They're going to know the things that a child or young person really enjoys. If they love Minecraft, if they love, you know, whatever it is, Lego, whatever it is that they enjoy, join them in that. That's the thing. That could be starting bit that you do. You might even have, if you've got a Lego loving young person or child, starting a session with that and ending with that could be the thing. It has to be tailored to what they wish and what they will enjoy. And if you do that, then you're likely to be able to build those connections with that child or young person, and be able to actually have a fruitful relationship where they can get that work, that direct work, in a way that feels comfortable for them.
It's now time for a quick break.
Search the CoramBAAF online bookshop. We take pride in offering the largest and most comprehensive collection of publications and resources on adoption, fostering and kinship. Our carefully curated selection is designed to provide you with everything you need to make informed decisions, gain valuable insights and receive expert advice and support. Visit corambaaf.org.uk/books for more.
Now back to the episode.
So we talked earlier on about, in our preparations for this, about pace. So what's the place for pace?
If you don't know already, PACE stands for playfulness, acceptance, curiosity, and empathy. So obviously you want to be playful, but you're going to do it in a way that joins for the child. You're not going to it's no point, you need to understand what the child enjoys as your starting point. That can really make a big difference. And as I say, remember that certain activities may have been done a lot. Another one is that life journey where it's a river or a road, that might have been done a lot before. So be aware, in being playful, you're going to want to think about what works well for that child or young person and go with that. You can be tongue-in-cheek with teenagers, it works well, and they will most likely join in. Acceptance means accepting the emotion of the child and not kind of rushing in too readily to kind of reassure. We like to reassure. I think just in general society, people like to reassure. So there is a really lovely video that when I do the life story training, in fact we all do, share about the difference between empathy and sympathy. It's Brené Brown, but it talks about those differences and how it's about not rushing in to kind of reassure. It's just acknowledging that's tough, that's hard. So if a child is feeling anger, you might wish to help them feel calmer because that you're going to be leaving soon and you're not wishing to kind of leave it in a difficult way. Actually joining in of saying, I understand you feel angry. I get that, I get that. That's really hard. That's really tough. Can go a lot further really than saying, but the situation was, and it may well be that you're trying to explain something rather than listen to the emotion of the child, so listen to that emotion. Don't rush into readily with kind of platitudes of, oh, you're okay now, it's okay, you're safe, you're with, that's what we can do, but that's not helpful. So that's part of that acceptance journey. Curiosity, in PACE, it's about wondering. Wondering's the magical kind of word, but just I'm wondering, if you're, I can see it looks to me like you're feeling sad, or I'm wondering this, and being able to help join the dots for a child or young person about their emotions and how they're feeling. If you wonder and you get it wrong, you're more likely to be told, no, it's not that. That's fine, and that's great, and you can, oh, silly me, that's fine. That's just opening the door, isn't it? So that kind of emotional literacy stuff can come out of the direct work, and it's a really, really valid and important part of it. So I would say that that's part of that for curiosity. And empathy, as I say, empathy is at the root of it all. Understanding that children have different experiences. Every one of us has a different experience. For example, grief and loss, people that come on the training courses, they talk about how phenomenally hard it is to talk to a child about loss. The amount of children that have had huge amounts of loss in their life, and practitioners are frightened sometimes to talk about those kind of emotional feelings, don't feel equipped, feel that perhaps it's something for a therapeutic team. Sometimes things are for therapeutic teams to be involved as well. But if we don't talk to children about loss and their sadness, then we're missing something. That's a really key part of our role, is understanding and being alongside children. And by opening the door for conversations, we're not going to have all the magical answers, but as long as we provide that support, we make sure that support networks around that child, which goes back to preparing and being involved with the carers right at the start, then we're going to leave things in a better place for children. And that's what this is all about.
Marianne, we've coming towards the end of our time, and I think this is my last question is, one key focus that you'd like people to have when they're doing direct work with children? One key sort of thing to take away, I guess, probably is what I'm asking for.
Just think about the child, understand the needs of that child, make it bespoke. This is about the needs of that child, young person. It's not about a kind of generic, there isn't a one size fits all. There's plenty of resources out there for you, so you don't have to feel fearful. I will make sure with Helen that there's a resource list that you can have a look at. So there are books, there are bits and pieces out there that you can utilise, but it's not a one size fits all. Really getting to understand the needs of that child or young person before you start will really guide you so much.
Lovely. Marianne, thank you ever so much. It's been lovely to talk to you. And as she said, we will make sure that the resources that you've mentioned are available for people to tap into. All right. Thank you ever so much. Thank you, Marianne.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of CoramBAAF Conversations. If you'd like to know more or listen to earlier episodes, visit corambaaf.org.uk.